God, many of us come here today feeling heavy and weary and raw. Give us the courage to turn our troubles over to you, O God. Give us the rest that we truly need. And may the words of my mouth and the meditation of all of our hearts be acceptable to you, our rock and redeemer. Amen. One of my favorite things to do in the summer is to go to the farmer's market on a Saturday morning. And every time I go, I linger at each booth, drinking in the smells and the sights of local fruits and vegetables. And I especially look forward to peach season, which is July and August. I go and search for the perfect Colorado peach. I put a few of them in their own brown paper bag, and then with great intention, place the brown paper bag into a cloth bag away from anything heavy. Peaches bruise so easily. Not like pineapples. With their prickly heart's gentleness. Now, I could say that I know nothing of the topic. First, I was preaching on kindness and goodness, which I knew nothing about, and now gentleness. I think maybe Jason or God or both have something to tell me. They want me to stretch a little bit. I mean, just look at my hair. I am even looking more like a pineapple than a soft and gentle peach, right? But it has come to my attention during this season, this sermon series of the fruit of the spirits, that none of them come easy for any of us. They are planted in us by the Spirit, and then they are grown in the hearts of Christians by the grace of God. So this morning, I would like to invite you to explore what gentleness looks like and its practice in our lives. In order to understand gentleness in a deeper way, I tried to investigate how the Apostle Paul used it in his original language of Greek. In Galatians, Paul uses the Greek word prautes, which has been translated in English as gentleness. However, the Greek language is very expressive. When the Greeks develop a word, they not only give it a definition, but they give it an illustration so that we can picture what it really feels like. The Greek word for gentleness was best illustrated by the Greeks with a wild spirit of an animal brought under the control of its master. A wild spirit of an animal reined in by the master who loves that animal. Gentleness doesn't wildly waste our strength. Gentleness is surrendered strength. This is important to know because while we love the comforting words of the Matthew text today, the 8 verses prior are shocking in comparison. The comforting words that are often cross-stitched on hand towels and are in a context that many Christians are too scared to even look at. So let's listen to the passage before these comforting words as translated by the Message. Next, Jesus let fly on the cities that he had worked the hardest in, but whose people had responded the least, shrugging their shoulders, going on their way. Doom to you, Chorazin. Doom, Bethsaida. If Tyre and Sidon had seen half of the powerful miracles you have seen, they would have been on their knees in a minute. At Judgment Day, they'll get off easy compared to you. And Capernaum, with all your peacock strutting, you are going to end up in the abyss. If the people of Sodom had had your chances, the small towns of Capernaum and Chorazin and Bethsaida were all unexceptional little fishing villages in Galilee, the same fishing villages that the majority of the disciples came from. Nothing in the Gospels points towards these villages being full of brothels or drugs or gangs or devil worshippers. Apparently, Jesus' main concern and complaint is that they were apathetic whiners. He had preached and healed, and they remained unmoved and unchanged, going about their daily business, going out to fish. He compared them to spoiled, entitled children. It is difficult to pin down the exact emotions Jesus is expressing here, but they are incarnationally and beautiful human feelings, to be sure. I am so drawn to Jesus when he cries, when he laughs, when he shouts. It reminds me that underneath his divinity resides a passionate person who wants better for us, a person who, like me, feels stung by criticism and grief and apathy. I want to know more about what got underneath Jesus' skin and how he dealt with it, because it may be something that irks me too. So then in the passage, out of the blue, Jesus changes direction. He shifts the tone of the passage as he prays, or did he simply remember the gentleness of God for all of humanity? Did he remember that God is control, that he needs to let go of the outcome of his work? We will never know. What we do know is that even when anger is the appropriate response, gentleness keeps the expression of anger, see and receive what the heavy, burdened, laden ones will see and receive. There is something about the pain of human suffering that tills the soil for the fruit of gentleness that Jesus has to offer. It is no wonder that the words from this familiar Matthew passage rank as some of the most comforting and most sublime ever uttered. Come to me, Jesus invites with open arms, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, my burden is light. While these familiar words give us comfort in our grief today, what gives me even more comfort is the change of heart that Jesus models for us. The relatively quick transition from frustration to prayer to gentle nurture. I think we need to remember this kind of transition for one another today and in the months ahead. In the days before and after Jane's passing, I spent a lot of time imagining when gentleness will be needed for our community as we grieve. Perhaps in the fall, when a person from your small group erupts in a way that seems out of the ordinary, gentleness will be needed. Perhaps on Christmas Eve, when the music doesn't seem quite the same, gentleness will be needed. Perhaps down the line in 6 months, when we feel horribly embarrassed that we are so weepy every time we come to church, gentleness will be needed. Our gentleness with one another can turn the tide of a conversation. We can infuse gentleness quietly and slowly in a tense board meeting. Gentleness can allow us to give ourselves a break. Our gentleness can depersonalize a sideways comment. Our gentleness can take the long view of an immediate problem. Gentleness is wisdom from on high, and we are allowed to bring it down to earth. I am reminded of a Sanskrit word and a concept from yoga called drishti. In yoga, drishti is the point of focus where the eyes rest during a posture in order for the body to balance itself properly. So when you go into a balancing pose, you try to create drishti so that you don't fall, so you don't wobble. But in a mixed green salad. In our culture, there is a high value placed on focusing. We analyze, we judge, we critique, we seek explanation. We are not encouraged to enjoy and savor or to indulge. So we criticize the French horn player rather than savoring the multitude of other sounds the orchestra has to offer. We push the entire mix. We have to be careful with one another and have careful consideration for one another's condition. We can be aware of when gentleness is needed in the moment. We can also use drishti as a way to be gentle with ourselves. I know I need that. I'm even tough on myself in my grieving. I can't even grieve right. Maybe I'm just preaching to myself. But if we are to soften our gaze towards ourselves, cut ourselves a little bit of slack, maybe we could see ourselves right-sized as God sees us, beloveds. I say all of this to remind us that in the months ahead, we will be grieving, like Jason said, differently and in different times. We all need to have a soft and gentle gaze when concerning others and ourselves. And just like Jesus, we need help letting go of behaviors that annoy us or our particular preferences. Then we can allow at our best. You and I, we are not God, and we don't have to try to be. Now let me say that again because I'm not sure I even heard that. You and I are not God, and we don't even have to try to be. This means we don't have to be perfect. Instead, Jesus invites us to dare to let go of the. These are words of a gentle friend who knows our condition, inviting us to rest in him. In our feelings of overwhelming loss this day, and in all of our losses, both past, present, and future, we will feel a lot of things: anger, frustration, peace, compassion, soft gaze. May we look in the mirror with drishti, for we bruise so easily. And may our gentle peach-like touch be a reflection of God's careful consideration for our current condition. May it be so. Amen.